to let me put my readers back on. We're living in a world where people are afraid to be themselves, and people can lose themselves in it. One should become a master of your reality, and you can become the queen of the Ratchet.
Thank you so much. Maestro, hit the first song for me. I might add a little comedy here. Welcome. Here we go. Bitch, I know you're a fan and you don't know your place, but it's about time that you know that you look a damn mess and you won't ever win. You're generic, you weak asshole. Though you may come for me, I will never be pressed. Do you want to get red tonight? Then sit down. Oh girl, bye, I will force you to cry. Do you want me to get that ass right? I'll get that ass right. You know I don't play. Bitch, fuck what you thought. I guess you forgot my petty ass ways. I'll get that ass right. I'm not in the mood. You'll end up with scars. I throw shade real hard. Don't make me get rude. Have several seats, bitch. My grandparents, my grandma Juanita, was very petty. 1 to like 5, 6, I was programmed, sat in front of the television a lot throughout my childhood. And I really did believe the stories that Disney told me. I actually thought that I would be on a farm with some chickens, and like I had this fairy tale that it was gonna be kind of like I was gonna be running around and waking up in the morning time and, you know, have a husband or wife at that point. And then you start to realize, well, I started to realize, because it's my world, right? That there were some imperfect things. But from 1 to 5, my grandmother, both of my grandmothers, right? So my grandma Juanita, right? She lived in the projects. And I didn't know what the projects really were, right? I just thought, okay, my grandmother, she does her laundry outside, she hangs it up. My other grandmother, she lived on the other side of Palaca, Florida. Now, one thing about Palaca, Florida is it is like Ku Klux Klan, like black people over here, white people over here, and I didn't really see color. I didn't see the difference of everything. To me, everything was pretty much perfect, like a Disney movie. I would go over and chill out with my grandmother. My mother would go to work, but I really thought my mother was like a superhero as well, so I didn't know where the hell she was going. But what I will say is, what I started to realize, one thing about my family is, like, we don't really talk about money, but I don't come from wealth. And I didn't understand that my grandmother wasn't perfect until I was about 5, when my mother quit McDonald's because she didn't want to work a 9 to 5 so long in her life. Like, that was it. And she quit. And I remember my grandmother sitting on her porch, because my grandmother really never left her porch. Another thing is my grandmother, she carried a gun in her purse. So I was always just a little bit scared. I was like, oh, I don't want to go there too far because I don't want her to shoot me. And to make a long story short, I remember my mother leaving my grandmother's crying. upset. And I hated her. I hated her so much in that moment. And then I started to realize there were things about my other grandmother that were really special to me, but I didn't really know her either. Because at a very young age, I just started to be by myself. Because I didn't think that any of my grandparents seen me. My grandfather, one of them was a pastor. The other one owned his own business. I lost, well, I don't have any of my grandparents anymore. And when I was pursuing acting and really pursuing it and everything, and I didn't really have a lot of money, I remember my mother calling me. It was my first children's theater gig, and she said, "Your grandmother's passed." And I didn't have the funds to go home, and I didn't really think that I needed to go home because I didn't really know my grandmother that well. My other grandmother, I did know, and I did get to go to the funeral. So in this moment, because I was like, well, what am I want to get up here and say about death? Because I think that everybody handles death differently. Usually when something happens, it feels like I'm shutting off, but I'm also just sitting there trying to absorb it and listen. I created a story in my head about who my grandmother was. I created a story in my head about who my mother is. And before I was in this world, my grandmother and my mother and all of the generations that have left before me had a life. And it took me a really long time, and it's still taking me a long time to realize that, number one, the world doesn't revolve around me, that time is really short. Whatever we choose to do career-wise, it doesn't matter. And I don't know, I feel like, though I know I'm more, and everybody believes what they want to believe, I know that I'm more than Joshua. I think this pandemic, I was placed in a place of imposter syndrome where I was starting to lose myself and think that I wasn't good enough to do certain things. So I stand before you right now because I'm also killing off all of the identity and all of the creating of what I thought my grandmother was, because she was more than just what she did to my mother or the generational curses or all these other things. I don't want to sing my other song. I'm going to sing this one. This is for both of my grandparents, all of my relatives, all of those that have come and left this world. I don't know why the fuck we're here. And it scares me. Death scares me. But I feel like I still want to try. This is my quest to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. one man scorned and covered in scars still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable stars. So yeah, to all my grandparents, to all those that have come before, I view that death is kind of like a rebirth in so many ways. And no, I don't see my grandparents anymore. And no, I really haven't seen my relatives and a lot of friends and a lot of people. And it does feel like so many times that I'm living in a world alone. But it is a disservice to just the inside of who I am to not keep getting back up, even though I have lost. And I will continue to do that. And I'm not saying that, you know, those that choose to not do it, you do what you know is best for you. I'm saying that I'm choosing to get back up for my grandparents and for all of my relatives that I didn't know. It's for me. Ashananabuba. Thank you.
Thank you. It was beautiful. I absolutely love how things change.